Good morning, Mets fans, and welcome to a Tuesday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and it's been a week, more than a week actually, since I recorded a video. The last video I recorded was last Monday. Was a fresh start after the Mets had closed out the horrendous month of June with a grand total of 5 wins. New month, but we are now 10 full days into it, and I want to talk about what's happened over the last couple of days, a couple of interesting roster moves, and my thought process, my evolving thought process as it pertains to the trade deadline and how the Mets should approach it. Despite only being 10 days into the month, the Mets already have 4 wins in July, which is one shy of their entire win total for the month of June. So it's an improvement, if nothing else. Granted, it would be hard to match the horrendousness that was the performance in June, at least as far as the record goes. But 4 wins so far this month. But, you know, the Mets are 16 games under 500 after the split yesterday with the Phillies. They remain 16 games under. And, you know, the ebb and flow of the season, which you hope has peaks as well as some valleys, which you expect. This season has been one peak and a great big death valley. Since the 11-1 start, but there have been some bright spots, and Asdrubal Cabrera is one of them. Jacob deGrom, of course, is one of them. Brandon Nimmo is one of them. Zach Wheeler, Steven Matz, both surprises, pleasant surprises. Tyler Bachelor, pleasant surprise. That's pretty much where it stops. And I mean, I guess we sort of have to include the new walk-off king in the franchise, Wilmer Flores, on that list. Not that it's a surprise, but Wilmer's always had that flair for the dramatic. But, I mean, what does he have, 3 walk-offs this year, or 4 walk-offs this year? You know, for a team that's only won a handful of games since their hot start. That's pretty impressive. 32 wins, I think. But anyway, enough has gone wrong that, last video I recorded, I talked about how I'm ready to blow the team up. I'm ready to trade everything, including deGrom, including Syndergaard. And I'm starting to soften a little bit on that. I'm not as interested in trading those 2 guys, if only because they are absolute known commodities. deGrom more so than Syndergaard. By the way, deGrom, congratulations to Jake for his All-Star bid. A totally deserving representative from the Mets. I'm going to talk about Brandon Nimmo in a second. But you know, you have these guys that have tremendous value, and you just don't know what you're going to get back in trade when you gamble like this. And that's what trading a potentially once-in-a-generation talent like Jacob deGrom, it looks like he's going to be. And not only that, but Jacob deGrom looks like the kind of guy who, and I've said this before, is going to pitch well into his 30s because he's a pitcher, and he doesn't rely on his fastball to get guys out. He relies on movement, pitch movement. He relies on outsmarting the hitter. He relies on he relies on being a pitcher. Right? He's not a thrower. And I'm not going to suggest that Syndergaard is a thrower, but let's just be real. There's no longer a question as to who the best starter on this team is, who the ace of this staff is. It's without question Jacob deGrom, and I've softened on the idea of trading him again, mainly because I just have no faith in the haul that the Mets could get back for Jake or for Noah. And to a lesser degree, I feel the same way about Wheeler and Matz. I feel like they've turned a corner. And I feel like trading them now would be a lot like letting Daniel Murphy walk after 2015. You know, the Mets got Murphy, and Kevin Long, hat tip, got Murphy to become the player that he was for the Nationals in 2016, 2017. Daniel Murphy was a difference-making player. He was an absolute, no question, all-star for another team. And he got there because the Mets got him there. And then they let him walk. And I feel like with Wheeler and Matz, the Mets have finally established something with these two guys, with either Dave Island and Mickey Callaway together, or one or the other of them by themselves. But something has clicked with these guys. And Island's going to be here next year. Callaway's going to be here next year. I'm leaning more toward keeping the pitching staff, the starting pitching staff, and unloading the few players that are really unloadable. And they would be Asdrubal Cabrera, they would be Jerry Familia, maybe Todd Frazier. I'm going to talk about Frazier in a second as well. And really listening on anybody else that's on the roster. You know, I think Jose Bautista has established enough value that he might even be a potential candidate to be traded. And that would be really cool if the Mets were able to turn him into something after getting him for nothing. And getting him from the Braves for nothing. So again, I don't think that. I guess this is a lack of faith that I have in the franchise to, make smart moves. But I just feel like they should hold on to these guys, and they should legit build around them. And when I say legit, I mean legit. I mean go out and get Manny Machado. Just do it. Overspend for a free agent like Manny Machado, just like the Mets did in the past, in the 2000s, before the Madoff scandal, when the Mets went out and overspent to get Carlos Beltran, to get Johan Santana, to get Pedro Martinez. They were an exciting team because Omar Minaya, and this is not his doing by himself. He had it at that point in time. The Mets had a pretty much open checkbook. Again, pre-Madoff. But Omar Minaya went out and he signed exciting, expensive stars to be a part of this team, to build around the nucleus of David Wright and Jose Reyes. We all know how that went. Right? It was fun. The outcomes of those seasons weren't what we wanted them to be, but they were fun seasons. And I would trade this nonsense now for 2007 and 2008. If we go back 10 years, 2017 to 2007, 2018 to 2008, knowing the outcomes of both of those seasons ending how they did, as painfully as they did, I think at this point I would take them, because at least the summer was fun. The summer was fun, and this is no fun. So speaking of fun, Brandon Nimmo, I said I would talk a little bit about Nimmo, not selected to the All-Star team. And I don't have a huge problem with him not being selected to the All-Star team. What I do have a problem with is him being left off of the final vote ballot. That's a little bit ridiculous, considering that he has a higher OPS than 8 of the other players in the starting outfield, in the outfield rather, for the National League. That's crazy. Bryce Harper's batting .219, and he's the starting right fielder. Popularity contest is what the All-Star Game voting is. It is a joke, to the point where the guy that pitched a beautiful game on Saturday, Snell from the Rays, who leads the American League in both wins and ERA, that guy is left off of the All-Star roster is an absolute freaking travesty, and MLB should be ashamed of itself. But I tweeted this to someone over the weekend, and I quote, "But please, MLB, tell us how pace of play is the real problem with the game." You know, the All-Star game is a popularity contest, and it doesn't reward players who are deserving. It rewards players who are popular, and that's crap. Anyhow, speaking of crap, another segue here. Todd Frazier, second stint on the disabled list since joining the Mets this year. As I've talked about before, he previously had never been on the disabled list in his professional career. But of course, you want to change that. You want to change your fortunes as far as the DL goes. Come to the Mets, because they will get you on the DL. Oh, they'll get you on the DL. Don't worry. So Frazier's on the DL, and the Mets recalled Ty Kelly in his place. And they made a couple of roster moves yesterday. Shuffled up some pitchers. DFA'd Chris Beck. Called up Drew Smith, PJ Conlin, Kelly, as I mentioned, for Frazier, and Jacob Rame was the 26th man for the doubleheader yesterday. But in Ty Kelly, the Mets brought up a guy who's okay, and again, have ignored a guy who I personally would love to get a look at in the major leagues, and that's Jeff McNeil, the guy who's been hitting the cover off the ball in Vegas. And the reasoning for not going McNeil over Kelly was that, well, McNeil's purely a second baseman and Cabrera's playing second base. But as I just talked about, Cabrera's on the chopping block. He's going to be traded in the next month or less. Why not show his versatility and let him play some third base and explain it to him? You know, don't surprise him with it, but explain it to him. Like, Cabby, you've been good at second. We want to throw you at third for a couple of days, while Todd is on the DL and while Frazier's on the DL, and we want to get McNeil some playing time at second base, at second base. If nothing else, and if you explain it to him properly, that improves Cabrera's trade value, because it shows that he can be a versatile utility infielder for a contending team. Of course, the Mets didn't do that, though. You know, they left McNeil in AAA, and we'll have Ty Kelly again. And, you know, that is what it is, I guess. But whatever. What are you gonna do? It's not like you can say anything. It's not like you can say anything about it. This is a decision the Mets made. It's the wrong one, in my opinion, but whatever. So again, the Mets will continue their series with the Phillies tonight. I cannot watch that game. I can never watch the Mets and the Phillies at home. I was not home yesterday to watch the games, but I know, of course, that Wilmer walked off the first, and that we lost the second one, mustering 2 hits. But Corey Oswalt pitched pretty well in the second game, so there's that, I guess. You know, baby steps. For Oswalt, it was one of his better starts. Actually, probably his best start in the majors. I still don't think he's a major league pitcher. I don't think that Chris Flexen is a major league pitcher either. The guy who started on Sunday. I feel like Flexen is like an automatic loss. Whenever he starts, it's like the team just has no intention of winning. I just would love to see someone else get the ball, because I can't believe that Flexen is the best option. But, you know, he is what it is. So I've rambled on long enough. I know there was a lot to cover. I know I didn't cover a lot and didn't cover everything, rather, but I hope I got to enough stuff to sort of bridge the gap between the last show and today. I should be back tomorrow, though, so should be getting back to a regular schedule soon, and with that, I'll be making more routine appearances here on Driving with Mr. Met. So until then, I appreciate your watching. As always, thank you. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter at Mr._Met, and as always, let's go Mets.